Judge Rebecca Thornton adjusts her reading glasses as she reviews the case file before her. The courtroom is quiet except for the soft hum of the air conditioning. Two women sit on opposite sides of the plaintiff's table, the tension between them unmistakable, despite their biological connection. Miss Nicole Parker, you've brought your mother, Miss Linda Parker, to this courtroom today because you say she has denied you the truth about your biological father for your entire life. You are now 21 years old, and you still don't know with certainty who your father is. Is that correct? Lie. Yes, Your Honor. For 21 years, I've been living a lie. My mother let me believe one man was my father, then told me it was someone else, and now there's a third possibility. I don't even know who I am anymore. Ms. Linda Parker, you admit that you were involved with multiple men around the time of your daughter's conception, and that you allowed her to grow up believing someone was her father when you weren't certain that was true. How do you respond to your daughter's accusation? Your Honor, I was 17 years old when I got pregnant with Nicole. I was a child myself. I made choices that I'm not proud of, but I was scared and confused. I thought I was doing what was best by giving her a stable father figure, even if I wasn't completely sure. But that father figure wasn't her biological father, was he, Miss Parker? I don't know, Your Honor. That's why we're here. Nicole shifts in her seat, her hands gripping the edge of the table. Let's start from the beginning. Ms. Nicole Parker, when did you first start questioning your paternity? I was 16 years old. My aunt, my mother's younger sister, she got drunk at a family barbecue and said something she shouldn't have. She looked at me and said, "You know, you don't look anything like David. You sure you're even his kid?" Everyone got really quiet and my mom hustled me inside the house real quick. But the damage was done. What happened after that moment? I confronted my mom that night. I said, "Aunt Jessica said I'm not David's daughter. Is that true?" And my mom, she just broke down crying. She didn't confirm it, didn't deny it. She just cried and said, "I'll explain when you're older." But, Your Honor, I was already 16. How much older did I need to be to deserve the truth? Linda wipes tears from her eyes with a crumpled tissue. Miss Parker, why didn't you tell your daughter the truth when she asked you directly at 16? Because I wasn't ready, Your Honor. I had built this life, this story. David was on her birth certificate. He'd been at every birthday party, every school event. He loved Nicole like she was his own. I thought if I told her the truth, I'd destroy everything. But David already knew he might not be my father, didn't he, Mom? Tell the judge the truth. Linda looks down at her hands, silent. Miss Parker, did the man who raised your daughter know there was doubt about his paternity? Yes. David knew. Key. When I told him I was pregnant, I also told him there was a chance the baby wasn't his. He said he didn't care. He wanted to be with me, wanted to raise the baby regardless. So we moved forward like everything was normal. Judge Thornton leans forward, her expression serious. So you had an agreement with David. But, Ms. Nicole Parker, you said there were multiple men. Who else could potentially be your father? When I finally got my mom to talk to me, really talk to me, I was 18. I had just graduated high school. She sat me down and told me there were two other men it could be. One was named Marcus Williams, a guy she dated before David. And the other was someone named James Rodriguez, who she had a brief thing with around the same time. Miss Parker, is this accurate? Linda nods slowly. Yes, Your Honor. Marcus and I had been dating for about 6 months. He was older than me, 22 to my 17. My parents didn't approve of the relationship. We were fighting a lot toward the end. Around that same time, I met James at a party. We had a connection, or at least I thought we did. And then there was David, who I started seeing shortly after. When I found out I was pregnant, I honestly didn't know which one of them was the father. And you chose David. He was the one who wanted to step up. Marcus had already broken up with me and moved to another state. James, when I told him I was pregnant, he said he wasn't ready to be a father and basically disappeared. David was the only one who wanted to be there. So, yes, I chose him. Or maybe he chose us. Nicole stands abruptly, her voice rising. But you lied to me. You let me call him Dad for 16 years. Do you know what it felt like when I found out? Do you have any idea how that destroys a person's sense of identity? Sit down, please, Ms. Parker. I understand your emotion, but we need to maintain order. Nicole sits reluctantly, tears streaming down her face. I'm sorry, Your Honor, but she doesn't understand. When I found out David might not be my father, I looked at him differently. And he looked at me differently too. Everything changed. The hugs weren't the same. The conversations weren't the same. It was like we were both pretending, and we both knew the other one was pretending, but we couldn't talk about it. Did you ever discuss this with David directly? I tried. One night, about 6 months after I found out, I asked him, "Are you my real dad?" And he said, "I'm the one who raised you, and that's all that matters." But that's not an answer, Your Honor. That's an evasion. Where is David now? Why isn't he here today? David passed away 2 years ago. Heart attack. He was only 43. Nicole's voice cracks, and I never got to know the truth. I never got to ask him all the questions I wanted to ask about whether he ever resented me, about whether he ever wondered, about whether he loved me less because I might not have been his. And now I'll never know. The courtroom falls silent. Judge Thornton allows the moment to breathe before speaking. I'm very sorry for your loss, Miss Parker, both of you. Losing David must have been incredibly difficult. And now, Miss Nicole Parker, you've tracked down these other 2 men. Tell me about that process. After David died, I felt like I had nothing to lose anymore. The person I'd always thought was my father was gone, and I deserved to know the truth. I started with Marcus Williams. I found him on social media. He lives in Texas now, married with 3 kids. Did you reach out to him? I sent him a message explaining who I was and what I wanted. He responded pretty quickly, actually. He said he'd wondered about me over the years, wondered if I was his. He agreed to take a DNA test. And did he? Yes, Your Honor. We did the test through one of those mail-in services. The results came back negative. He is not my biological father. How did you feel when you got those results? Honestly, relieved and disappointed at the same time. Relieved because Marcus seemed nice but distant, like I was more of a curiosity than a daughter. Disappointed because it meant I still didn't have my answer. That left James Rodriguez and David was already gone. So then you searched for James Rodriguez? That was harder. James doesn't have much of a social media presence, but I'm persistent, Your Honor. I found a cousin of his who put me in touch with him. When I called him, he didn't even remember my mother at first. Linda shifts uncomfortably in her seat. Is that true, Ms. Parker? Ms. Parker? When your daughter contacted James Rodriguez, he didn't remember you. He said he remembered me after I gave him some details. But yeah, initially he didn't even know who I was talking about. The idea that I might be the daughter of someone who doesn't even remember the night I was conceived. Judge Thornton turns her attention to Linda. Ms. Parker, I need to understand something. When you were 17 and involved with these 3 men, were you being intimate with all of them around the same time period? Your Honor, it was a very confusing time in my life. My parents were going through a divorce. I was acting out, looking for attention and affection in all the wrong places. Within a span of about 6 weeks, yes, I was involved with all 3 of them, and you didn't use protection. I was 17 and stupid, Your Honor. I thought I was invincible. I thought things like unplanned pregnancy happened to other people, not to me, but it did happen to you. Yes, it did. And I've spent the last 21 years trying to deal with the consequences of choices I made when I was barely old enough to drive. Nicole speaks up, her voice steadier now. Your Honor, I need you to understand something. This isn't just about me wanting to know who my biological father is. This is about my health, my future. What if I have genetic conditions I don't know about? What if I have siblings I've never met? What if my own children someday need medical history that I can't provide because my mother couldn't keep track of who she was sleeping with? That's unfair, Nicole. You're making it sound like I was promiscuous. You were seeing 3 different men in 6 weeks, Mom. What would you call it? I would call it a confused, hurting teenager making bad choices. I would call it someone looking for love in all the wrong places because her home life was falling apart. But I guess it's easier for you to judge me than to try to understand what I was going through. I'm not trying to understand what you were going through. I'm trying to understand who I am. And you took that away from me by lying for 21 years. Judge Thornton raises her hand for silence. Ladies, please. I understand this is emotional, but we need to focus. Ms. Nicole Parker, you said James Rodriguez is here today. Yes, Your Honor. He's waiting outside. Waiting outside. And he's agreed to paternity testing? Yes. He wasn't thrilled about it, but he agreed. He said if I'm his daughter, he wants to know. Though honestly, I think he just wants to rule it out, so I'll leave him alone. Why do you say that? Because of the way he talked to me on the phone. He kept saying things like, "This is really inconvenient timing," and "I'm not in a position to take on a daughter right now." Like I'm some kind of burden he might have to deal with instead of a person who deserves answers. Did you speak with him about this, Ms. Parker? I did. I called James before Nicole did to give him a heads up. I thought it would be better coming from me first. He was cold, Your Honor. He said, "That was over 20 years ago, Linda. Why are you dragging this up now?" And what did you tell him? I told him that our daughter deserves to know the truth about the truth and that she has a right to know where she comes from. He said he'd do the test, but he made it clear he wasn't happy about it. Your Honor, can I say something? Of course, Miss Nicole Parker. I know my mom made mistakes when she was young. I do understand that intellectually. But emotionally, it's hard to forgive. She had 21 years to tell me the truth. 21 years. She could have told me when I was 10 or 12 or 16 or 18. Instead, I had to find out by accident from a drunk aunt at a barbecue. And even then, she didn't tell me everything. She parceled out the truth in little pieces like she was rationing it. First, she admitted David might not be my dad. Then she told me about Marcus. Then finally, she mentioned James. It was like pulling teeth to get the full story. Miss Parker, why did you reveal the information gradually rather than all at once? I was scared, Your Honor. Every time I told Nicole another piece of the truth, I saw the way she looked at me change. I saw the disappointment and anger in her eyes. I knew that if I told her everything all at once, I might lose her completely. So I told her in pieces, hoping that maybe she could process it better that way. I can see now that was the wrong approach, you think? Nicole's voice drips with sarcasm. It wasn't just wrong, Mom. It was cruel. Every time I thought I finally had the whole truth, there was something else. How am I supposed to trust anything you tell me now? I understand why you feel that way. Do you? Do you really? Because from where I'm sitting, it seems like you're more worried about how you feel and how you look than about what I've been through. That's not true, Nicole. Everything I did to protect you. Protect me from what? The truth. I didn't need protection from the truth. I needed the truth so I could make sense of my life. Judge Thornton interjects. Ms. Parker, I'm going to ask you directly. In your heart, who do you believe is Nicole's biological father? Linda takes a deep breath. Honestly, Your Honor, I think it's James. The timing fits better with James than it did with Marcus or David. But I've never been completely certain. That's why we're here. And have you maintained any relationship with James Rodriguez over the years? No, Your Honor. After he made it clear he didn't want to be involved, I never contacted him again, until recently when Nicole wanted to find him. Judge Thornton nods slowly. I think it's time we bring Mr. Rodriguez into the courtroom. Jerome, please escort him in. The bailiff exits and returns moments later with a man in his early 40s. James Rodriguez is tall, with dark hair graying at the temples. He looks uncomfortable in his button-down shirt and slacks like he'd rather be anywhere else. His eyes scan the courtroom before landing on Linda, then Nicole. Mr. Rodriguez, thank you for joining us today. Please approach the witness stand. James walks forward stiffly and stands before the judge. Mr. Rodriguez, do you remember Miss Linda Parker? James glances at Linda before responding. I do now, Your Honor. When she called me a few months ago, it took me a minute. But yeah, I remember her. We met at a party, hung out a few times. That was over 20 years ago. And Miss Parker informed you that she got pregnant around that time. She did. But, Your Honor, she also told me she was seeing other people. She never said definitively that the baby was mine. So I moved on with my life. Did you ever wonder about whether you had a child out there? James hesitates, sometimes. But, Your Honor, I was 19 years old at the time. I was working construction, barely making ends meet. The idea of being a father terrified me. When Linda told me she had other guys in the picture and that someone else was stepping up, I was relieved. I know that's not noble, but it's the truth. Nicole stares at James, studying his features, searching for any resemblance. Mr. Rodriguez, do you see any resemblance between yourself and Miss Nicole Parker? James looks at Nicole for the first time since entering the courtroom. Really looks at her, maybe around the eyes. Maybe around the eyes. And her hair color is similar to mine. But I don't know. I'm not good at seeing resemblances. Nicole, can you come stand next to Mr. Rodriguez so I can see you side by side? Nicole stands and walks over to where James stands. They're roughly the same height. Their coloring is similar, dark hair, olive-toned skin. Mr. Rodriguez, if today's DNA test confirms that you are Nicole's biological father, what would that mean to you? James rubs the back of his neck, clearly uncomfortable. Your Honor, I'm going to be honest with you. I have a family now. A wife and 2 kids. This would complicate things. But if Nicole is my daughter, I wouldn't deny it. I'd figure out a way to deal with it. Deal with it? I'm not a problem to be dealt with. I didn't mean it like that. Then how did you mean it? I meant that it would be an adjustment. That's all. An adjustment. Right. Well, it's been an adjustment for me too, Mr. Rodriguez. It's been an adjustment to find out that the man who raised me might not be my biological father. It's been an adjustment to discover that my mother was involved with multiple men and has no idea who my real father is. It's been an adjustment to track down strangers and ask them to take DNA tests. So forgive me if I don't have a lot of sympathy for your adjustment. I think we're all feeling the tension in this room. Mr. Rodriguez, have you submitted to DNA testing? Yes, Your Honor. We did the test last week at a certified lab. And Ms. Nicole Parker, you also submitted your DNA. Yes, Your Honor. Judge Thornton picks up the envelope on her desk. Then I have the results right here. These results were prepared by UCU Test DNA Laboratory, and they will tell us definitively whether James Rodriguez is Nicole Parker's biological father. Before I open this envelope, I want to say something to all of you. DNA can tell us about biology. It can tell us who contributed genetic material to create a life. But it cannot tell us who a real parent is. David Parker, may he rest in peace, was a father to Nicole in every way that mattered. Wow. He changed diapers, attended school plays, taught her to ride a bike. Those are the things that make someone a parent, not just genetics. Do you all understand that? Yes, Your Honor. The others nod in agreement. Judge Thornton opens the envelope carefully and removes the paper inside. She reads silently for a moment before looking up. In the case of Parker versus Parker regarding the paternity of 21-year-old Nicole Parker, when it comes to the question of whether James Rodriguez is her biological father, the DNA test results indicate that James Rodriguez is the biological father. The probability of paternity is 99.99%. Nicole gasps and covers her mouth with her hand. Linda closes her eyes and takes a deep breath. James stands frozen, his expression unreadable. Mr. Rodriguez, you are Nicole's biological father. How do you feel? I don't know, Your Honor. Shocked, confused. I need time to process this. You've had 21 years to process the possibility. But it was always just a possibility. Now it's real. Judge Thornton turns to Nicole. Ms. Parker, you finally have your answer. Your biological father is James Rodriguez. What do you want to say to him? Nicole looks at James, tears streaming down her face. I don't know if I want you in my life or not. I don't know if I can forgive you for walking away. But I deserve the chance to figure that out. I deserve the chance to know my medical history, to know if I have siblings, to know where I came from. You don't get to just disappear again because this is inconvenient for you. I understand. Do you? Because it seems like you're already thinking about how to minimize the impact on your life rather than thinking about what I might need. That's not fair. I just found out 2 minutes ago. And I've been searching for answers for 5 years. So excuse me if I don't give you much of a grace period. Judge Thornton intervenes. Ms. Parker, Mr. Rodriguez, you both have a lot to work through. I'm going to recommend family counseling to help you navigate this new relationship if you choose to pursue one. Mr. Rodriguez, you have a legal and moral obligation to at least make yourself available to Nicole for medical history and any questions she might have about your family. Beyond that, the relationship you build is up to both of you. Yes, Your Honor. And Ms. Linda Parker, you need to understand the damage that secrecy has caused. Your daughter has lost years with her biological father because you weren't honest. She's lost trust in you. The relationship between a mother and daughter is sacred and you've fractured it. I strongly encourage you to seek counseling as well. Yes, Your Honor, I'll do whatever it takes to make this right. Nicole looks at her mother with a mixture of anger and sadness. I don't know if you can make it right, Mom, but I'm willing to try if you are. I am, baby. I promise you I am. Judge Thornton closes the file. This court is adjourned. I wish all of you the wisdom and strength to move forward with truth and grace. As the courtroom empties, Nicole stands between her mother and her biological father, connected to both, fully known by neither, beginning the long journey toward understanding who she truly is and where she belongs in the world.